Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 531. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zoner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Our three-part Tears of the Kingdom series continues this week with part 2. In case you missed it, the first part of our three-part series on Tears of the Kingdom highlighted our relationship with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and started our discussion on the early sections of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. In this episode, all elements of the game are open for discussion, and we may spoil anything from, I would say, both Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. If you've yet to complete the game and you're avoiding spoilers, please recognize this warning. Let's start things off at the time of this recording. What is everybody's completion status with Tears of the Kingdom?
Done?
Matt says done. I have finished the game. I'm not going to say 100%. I will never say 100%. But I did the main story quests. I lit the underground, corner to corner. And my total runtime was 84 hours.
Wow.
I don't know. Well, look, we've got 2 more parts, Mark, to go into whether or not it's a wow. We'll see. But yeah. Matt, you're done?
Properly done this time.
Properly done? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into that compared to your Breath of the Wild run.
Not quite nearly as much as you. I did not light all of the... I didn't light up any completions, sky, ground, or under. But no, I got through all the phenomena being story beat, and final boss down and out.
Mark, where did you land on Tears of the Kingdom so far?
Still not finished. I'm taking my time with it. But I have moved on from I'm starting, I want to complete the sky map before anything.
Ooh.
I'm making my way to starting as above, then going so below.
All right, I like it. But you know how the story plays out. You know the plot points, so you're not going to be exposed to spoilers that you're not aware of here on this episode.
Yep.
So there it is. Listeners, I'm curious to hear, how much did you do? Did you finish everything? Did you do all the side quests? Did you do the side adventures? What was your clock time? Are you still playing the game? I still have a couple people on my friends list that I see pop on and off, still running through, playing some Tears of the Kingdom. Drop us a line in the comments, or of course you can email us at podcast@thefreecheese.com. Mark, you mentioned last episode a feeling of shock after realizing just how different Breath of the Wild was from your expectations of a Zelda video game. Mm-hmm. How has Tears of the Kingdom been able to reintroduce what you felt was missing from Breath of the Wild?
I don't know how to answer that. Because if anyone asks, they want a shorthand answer of what's the difference between Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild? It's not much, but the things that do change it are they do improve things for sure, but at the same time it's I don't know. It's not sticking with me as much as I thought it would.
Breath or Tears of the Kingdom overall is not?
Yeah, okay. I mean, we can say that there's dungeons, right?
Yeah, we're clean. You can say the word temple if you want to. I was trying to avoid saying the word temple last episode, but yeah, there they are.
Yeah, they're there. But I don't know, I feel like you need more than that for this. I don't know. Like, the combat is still the combat. That hasn't changed, and I'm still disappointed in that. I don't like you just have a preconceived set of combo for each weapon. You can't, like, do the cool strafing or do the, horizontal attacks if you're leaning left to right, or a vertical attack if you're holding forward, or like a stab. Like, it's all like, it's still simplified in a game that put all of its skill points into Minecrafting.
Yeah.
So, but some of the abilities are cool though, like, having with like the past champions and stuff, like and like them fighting alongside you and stuff like that. I do like there's more character interaction with things, for sure. But yeah, I think overall I would just say it's just more so of an improvement on Breath of the Wild. But it's a world that I'm kind of already exhausted with. So
I get that. Yeah. No,
on a grand Zelda scheme, it's still not quite hitting what I like, but doesn't mean it's a bad game.
Yeah, I think for me, like the things I was missing in the last game were dungeons, right? Temples of some kind to explore. A lack of like some iconic Zelda enemies or like that kind of stuff, which we did get. Like the likes are back. Like the first time I saw a like in this game, I was like, oh, cool. The undead, or not the, what are they called in this?
The Redead?
Thank you, the Redead. Redead being here. I'm like, oh, wow, here they are, right? Like that stuff was really exciting to have. Like, okay, this feels more like a Zelda game, right? Because like the moblins and bokoblins and everything from the first game, like they've always been a Zelda enemy, but they weren't right. Like I felt like Breath of the Wild, it was like the two main enemy types that had different degrees of color to indicate difficulty and whatever, and then you had the Lynels. And I'm being a bit reductive, but like that wasn't much more than that.
I mean, yeah, there's like you got the keys, you got the slimes, you got the like
right, yeah,
the Lizalfos.
I forgot about those Alphos. Shout out to those Alphos. Yeah, good point.
Then you have like some of the more like boss like enemies, like the Hinox or. But yeah, I mean, I would put Hinox up there with Lynels though.
Yeah, but like yeah, they're just not. I don't know. There were fewer enemy types there, where I felt like in previous Zelda games, you'd go to a dungeon or a temple and you would have like that area's enemy type, right?
Sure.
You would go to those temples and you would unlock that was always the hook. And I like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both break away from that like need to have an item, right? Like that very specific, like ever since I read the article, I don't know, a decade ago, kind of lamenting Skyward Sword, I can't not equate it to that. But the theme park attraction, right? Like you go to it, it is fun to go on a theme park ride, but it's safe. You know what it is. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of guided along on the journey. That's how the old Zelda games felt, and Breath of the Wild broke away from that, obviously, and Tears of the Kingdom has continued. And while I missed the temples, I also missed like the hook shot. And every Zelda game had like weird items that you would get, right? That you'd like, oh, what is this thing gonna do? And that was always exciting and fun to see what was there, and we don't get that in Tears of the Kingdom either. Temples do return. We'll talk a bit about temples later on. And yeah, I don't know. There's a couple other things I felt like I was missing from Breath of the Wild that ultimately I feel like I found still missing in Tears of the Kingdom. I remember like kind of leaving Tears of the Kingdom and looking for things in other places, like going to different games and like trying to scratch itches that I still was left with from Tears of the Kingdom a bit after that. Matt, you completed this game, and this time you approached it a bit more traditionally. Besides having time on your side this time around, right? Last time you were kind of up against the Game of the Year end of year, that weight of like, I gotta finish this.
Also,
but besides that, no, but besides that, what about Tears of the Kingdom made you more compelled to explore the world?
I don't know if this game did anything differently to compel me to explore that Breath of the Wild wasn't doing for me before. I just think I just kind of let myself get lost a little bit more than I ever did with Breath of the Wild. I don't have a pinpoint like thing because like I can't say temples because I didn't even do the Divine Beast in the last game. Like I don't think there's that many like world events that were happening that were I mean, there's stuff that happens of course in the lands, but it's like it's the same kind of stuff I was seeing in Breath of the Wild. When I explored a little bit in that game. No, I think I just let myself kind of get lost a little bit. Also, I didn't really have much to play at this time either. It was kind of just this, which was nice.
Yeah, that's fair.
I did have a self-imposed deadline, but we get to that later.
Well, one thing that the game does right pretty early, and what ends up being a big addition to the gameplay in Tears of the Kingdom is crafting. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about it. With Link's new tools, the player must craft vehicles or structures that assist in navigating through the world. Did either of you have any constructions that you remember feeling particularly proud of?
Proud? No. Did it get there? Yes. I would like to use this analogy. My constructions were very much resembling the PSN network. It was held together by duct tape and paper mache.
Very good. Very good. Can you change your name on your constructions?
I don't know.
Just trying to see if you're right in line.
Maybe,
with
I don't know. We probably are in line.
Yeah.
You might risk losing your save still, but
yeah.
Well, I actually know someone that lost their save for Tears of the Kingdom, by the way. So that's
ooh, devastating.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that sucks. Huh? System transfer or?
I forgot what it was. I think
Tears of the Real World.
I think save got corrupt. I don't remember the exact cause. I didn't want to talk about it anymore because I felt the pain in their eyes.
Yeah. Did they beat it, or were they like right on the cusp?
They were taking their sweet time. They were about like 25 hours in.
That sucks. Yeah. Mark, any accomplishments with crafting this time around?
No, I'm still trying to understand a lot of like how things work with the Zonai tech. Like a lot of it, like you just have to experiment and figure out. And I just don't expect, you put these steering handles into something, automatically you can just steer it. It's like I thought you might needed more things, but a lot of it is simplified, right? Like it's so simple, but I overthink it, or I just don't know what this should be used for. And it's like, I know it's all about me and how I want to do it, how I want to approach it, but I hate that because I don't like some things. I just need to know, like, what's the most simplest way to do this? Because I do not do that with anything. It's like more than half the time I'm just gluing shit together to make a long bridge because I don't feel like making a flying apparatus to send me somewhere. Like,
that was one of the greater things about getting further and getting to the point where you start unlocking like crafting recipes, or when you make something, you can take what you've made and favorite it so that it makes it easier to auto craft later on. Like that stuff was nice.
Yeah, like, or putting something onto my shield, I think is probably my proudest thing. I just put like a skateboard onto my shield and then I just scoot everywhere. Like that's basically been my thing.
Yeah. The only stuff I remember like not feeling proud of necessarily, but feeling good about putting together out of necessity were some sort of flying machine with headlights underground, or a car underground that I could drive over the Malice with, that kind of stuff. You can't always find a horse underground. If you can, you should do it because you get to ride on a cool skeleton horse. But especially uncovering that whole map, because I did all of the light routes to see if it was like worth it, and it wasn't.
I'm dreading doing that.
I don't. Yeah,
You don't need to.
I'm trying to hold off on like any of my like big declarative feelings about the game yet. We're gonna get there, but I want to make sure we kind of just cover the ground first. But yeah, doing that, I think detracted from my overall enjoyment of the game. I'll say that up front, like, only because it separated me too far from what the purpose of the game was. And I let myself get lost on like what I wanted to do, right? And it's the same thing. Like, I never finished Final Fantasy VI because I hit a point where I thought it would be a good idea just to grind for a while. And after you spend 20 hours in the same tiny 2 steps of a forest grinding, you're like, this game sucks. It's like, no, the game doesn't suck. You suck at playing it. And I kind of got that by like pushing my way to uncover every light route. Like, once I decided I wanted to do that, I spent more time playing or listening to podcasts about Tears of the Kingdom while doing that than I did, taking the game forward any.
Right.
But to that end, like, in order to make that, because I ran a lot of it on foot, because honestly, crafting got tiresome. I ran out of materials. I ran out of things to be able to craft. And all of your things that you do craft, they have a finite amount to them, right? Like, they all have, one, you can attach like batteries to keep things charged and going, but 2, like the items themselves, like each element of a thing that you craft will disintegrate and break apart. So you could be flying, gliding right along, and the thing that you're standing on will start flashing. And then, just like the weapon system, it will break. And then you're falling from midair.
Yeah, like, I thought I was a creative person in general until I see the videos on like what people make in this game to just cheese through it. Where like, I've seen full ass mechs been made. I've seen a Metal Gear be made.
Yeah.
Or my favorite, the biggest cube to ever exist, and you just drop it on enemies until you're done fighting them. Like, every boss that was a challenge, nope, you just keep summoning this giant cube from the sky to slam them. And that's the whole game for them. It's like, I don't know why I didn't even think of that.
That kind of stuff that people ended up doing. I've seen some of the like auto targeting, auto flying, auto follow. All of that stuff is wild. But I mentioned it last time. The thing that happened with me often is that I kept forgetting that you could craft. Right? Like, you get so used to what Breath of the Wild did, and I felt like I kept slipping back into what I was doing from Breath of the Wild, that like, when I would look at a problem I had to solve, typically with navigation, how do I get there? How do I get Link from here to there quickly? I often forgot about Ascend, one of the 4 main abilities, and I forgot about, I could just craft a hot air balloon and fly up there. That was often, I didn't think about it. Which, I don't know what that, I've tried to figure out for a long time. What does that say about me or this game that I forgot about one of its core elements?
I think for me, it was like I think the Ascend was my most used ability. Because like, sometimes traversing can be a slog, but I like that kind of more simplistic approach in a game that encouraged you to build everything and anything. I guess I wanted to challenge myself and have like, all right, but I also have the option to not do any of it. And I just want to see what that's like. Obviously, it's going to be kind of boring and simple and repetitive on paper, like whatever. But I don't know. I think I like more the idea of Link not being that resourceful in that sense, and just kind of like, what if you didn't have any of it? What would you do then? And I kind of like the bare minimum like eco approach to it. Yeah. Brief update for those wondering after a little. I'd said last time that I was going to try this as soon as I got done. I tried to fuse a rupee to see what would happen, and you cannot fuse rupees. Sorry to report. I guess to close out, what's your lasting impression of crafting in the game, Matt?
Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Fallout 4, where, Fallout 4 more so the settlement stuff. Where like, it's there and you can go nuts with it, go have fun, but like, if you just want to like play the game and not do it, like you don't have to do much. Yeah, there's a couple quests here and there that you're gonna have to maybe innovate more than just kind of put 4 wheels on a piece of wood. But I don't know, like it did really get in my way. It's not like it was definitely not my favorite thing to do, but you just heard me here say I barely got things together for certain objectives. But I never felt it was like get in my way or hinder my experience. It was just one of those like I just have to do this objective with this, much like I need a sword to take down an enemy. Like sure. I don't know. I just gotta learn to live with the few occasions that I had to get into the weeds with it.
Mark, where does crafting lie in your mind with Tears of the Kingdom?
Short answer, I'm over it. I don't think it's cool that they're doing something new, but this isn't. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with my perception of Zelda or Zelda games in general. Also, just coming from a history of where crafting had to be an element in almost every open world game now, or like survival game. Like it's just it feels very exhausted. So I think the zeitgeist around it kind of affected that as well. I mean, I do like that it's not complicated in Zelda. You can literally just slap whatever you want together, even if it's technically incorrect in some senses, or maybe it might not work how you want it, but at least it gives you that opportunity without having to really farm resources and stuff like that. Like, if you attach the wheel a little bit wrong, you can wiggle the right stick to detach it and re-put it back on. You don't have to worry about breaking a wheel and making a new one from something, or grinding an enemy to get this material for a thing. There's no real recipes for anything, so that is a good trade-off. I do like it doesn't really penalize you for making mistakes like that. But I am
think
over.
That's a good thing to point out. I want to let you finish, but just to hang on that for a second. I think that's a really good point. Like, while none of us are particularly drawn to the crafting, it is done so well. It's so seamless. It's very easy to do. To your point, you can pick up nearly anything and attach it to nearly anything else. And you can change those things on the fly, or as you're making mistakes. Like it's all very much.
And that includes the fuse stuff too.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, where it's like you always have that. If you get into those like what if situations, it's like, well, what if I do this to this? And they're like, yeah, go for it, try it, see what happens.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's not you're never really. I don't know, punished. You're only rewarded. It's just a matter of like how high is the reward for what you've put together.
Yeah, I guess you're punished if you're trying something in combat and it doesn't work, and then.
Yeah, I've done a couple of those, like exploding things, or like, whoops, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to.
Like my favorite thing is to fuse an explosive barrel onto my shield, so I can do that shield bounce just to get some height on things.
Feels very good. Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, so crafting offers additional options for combat. And Mark, combat's something that's always important to you in Zelda. Mm-hmm. Did crafting add a significant change to combat in this era of Zelda?
It does help in an environmental sense, but it's still not what I prefer. It's just not my way of wanting it. I still think Twilight Princess had it the best when it comes to that stuff, because that only perfected what Ocarina of Time started. So I like the route they were going with that, where you could learn new techniques and whatever. Like having specific sword skills, I thought was very cool. But it is technically an improvement. I think it's just I just don't want to be creative all the time. So sometimes I just want to just hit something with a just mash a button until they're dead type of situation sometimes.
Matt, did you have any moments where crafting enhanced your combat?
Yeah, I used a lot of different things with bows. And I was always I was always kind of putting rocks on swords to improve its durability, which was one of my problems for Breath of the Wild. It's still not good here, but it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably so many things I missed that I could have thought of in hindsight, but like, you know, as I kept playing the game, I remembered like think outside the box. Like as soon as I saw an encounter, it was like instead of just jumping right in and do what you do with swinging the sword, I kind of just took a step back and was like, all right, let's like kind of, what do I have? What's around me? What can I grab in the Ultra Hand? What can I fuse something with? Is there weaknesses? Can I use like I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the rocks and what elements they are, but like, can I use one of those against this kind of enemy? It took a while. I would probably say I wasn't doing that until like the third or fourth phenomena, like working towards in those areas. But once I kind of stopped going head first and everything, kind of just took that step back approach and just examine. I found some creativity. Not much. I'm not going to say much though.
I agree with both of you, but I did ultimately, I think, like Mark alluded to toward the beginning of the episode, I found what I wanted out of combat lacking in this, and I know that not long after finishing this, I jumped right into Sekiro we had to play that for the thing, but like, which was the opposite end of the extreme, but I needed that I needed something, right? Because I just felt like this was not what I wanted. But more immediately, I had a handful of games that maybe I'll save the bigger discussion for this for a different point in our conversation on Tears of the Kingdom, and what each of those games were. But I found myself listing out this. So I've got a running note that I was keeping as I played Tears of the Kingdom, and it's all time-stamped with dates as I'd write all this stuff down. And the last note that I have written before my note, the day that I'd completed it, is I pointed out that I stopped playing Tears of the Kingdom pretty close to the ending to go play Monster Hunter World for a while. I ended up playing through the entire campaign of Monster Hunter World in between like being near the ending of Tears of the Kingdom and beating Tears of the Kingdom. And then I started Iceborne. And it was like, it's two completely different crafting systems. So I'm not trying to, it's apples and oranges. But like, there's a purpose for crafting in Monster Hunter World that feels more intentional from a gameplay perspective to me than it did. I know that it's like inherent to Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't know. Like there's a direct feedback loop, and really for me, It's the reward piece. And I think that for me with Tears of the Kingdom is the thing that was lacking in so many aspects is reward. There's not a ton of reward. like
the whole loop of Monster Hunter, like making the weapon that you want is a big part because hunting is a part of that in order to get that. So it that loop is good. And then like the way that each weapon has like a secondary function and what you can do with it in midair versus on the ground and just trying to time everything, like there is more involved with how you handle whatever weapon you want to use.
Yeah.
It's not just do this 3-hit combo, or you can dodge for a second and do like a flurry attack or whatever.
Yeah, and I think to an extent, it's Zelda needs to be on the simpler side, right? Like if you are chasing something more heavy, then you go after a Dark Souls or something where you can whatever. But Zelda has had combat before. Like Mark, you were the first one to point it out to me, like how good Wind Waker's combat was, and playing that, like it has a complicated system. Skyward Sword has a complicated combat system. It can be done. But that was one of the things I found myself seeking, was I did not feel like combat was engaging. And I tried to use crafting to make combat engaging, and I never quite got it. And that's why, like, in the wake of Tears of the Kingdom, it was like, I'm going to go play something where combat is the focus of this. And I remember jumping to Monster Hunter World, and once I completed it, and I needed even more, it was Sekiro that I went to.
I think I would argue that the game doesn't give you enough tools in combat, and I never got good at it because of it.
Did you feel like you were just?
I was
I
swinging.
guess what was your? Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so many combat oriented games where I'm sword and shield, like Dark Souls and Elden Ring and all those are hard as balls. We all acknowledge that, right? But like, I feel confident swinging a sword in that game. I never felt confident swinging a sword in Zelda. It's weird. I think I had the same problems with Breath of the Wild. And that's why I think I said that the last week. We recorded breaking kayfabe months ago. But I think I said I got more engaged because Horizon had a better combat system in my opinion. That same thing happened here. I just it didn't disengage me from the game, but I never felt confident going into some battles. Yeah, I mean, there were some ways that she used it, like TNT and the stuff I was saying before, let's look around, let's see if I can exploit elements and things of that nature. A lot of the bomb plant and arrows like that. That does damage. But yeah, no, I feel like in some of those games, like you just said, Sekiro, Dark Souls, and then the game I played after this, Final Fantasy 16, I felt incredibly confident going into every encounter in that game, knowing all my tools. And in this one, sure, I had all the tools in the world because of the way this game is, but I just never felt confident going into some of those battles.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point with Zelda in general, because to me, if you boil down Zelda, I would say first and foremost, it's a puzzle game. It's all about solving something to get to the next thing. That's why the dungeons exist. That's why, combat was always kind of secondary and more on the simplistic side, right? Link to the Past or the NES games, besides Zelda 2 was a little more involved, but Zelda 1 and Link to the Past, it was just one button swipe attack, and then you can eventually charge it to do a spin attack, and maybe do the Pegasus boots. And that was kind of it, but it was still top-down swiping. Block was automatic. And then when it became 3D, you had the Z targeting, and that became a little more involved. But still, it was more so about exploring and getting to the next place, and how do you solve the puzzles to get to that thing. So I could see the argument where combat really shouldn't be that big of a focus in a Zelda game, but at the same time, now we have lore and everything in the boss fights where you have to rely on combat more than anything, because they made the Master Sword such a big deal, a sword.
Yeah.
And it's not even that great in these last two games. It sucks.
The best boss fights in this game are the ones where they gave you a mechanic.
Right. So this whole game is focused on the environment. It's all sandbox, and that is your weapon and everything. It's a puzzle and a weapon at the same time. And yeah, it can work, but at the same time, it just feels so clashing to me. I don't know how to put my finger on it.
No, and your point of the Master Sword too, that was always something you earned and you finally felt like it was powerful. And this,
the Master Sword...
Did it break?
Yeah, the Master Sword sucks, but hey, slap a giant stone on this stick and that for some reason can do better, or slap a sword on top of another sword and that is somehow stronger. It's just alright.
It's called the Master, it should be the be all end all, right? And I get that it would be OP but
yeah. Story wise,
the journey to get a sword on another sword is actually quite short. The journey you go through to get the Master Sword is this incredible thing about going, in the Lost Woods and then underground and up in the air, and you have to have the stamina. This game did stamina. It almost got me, but I had enough stamina this time because I was just fucking dumping hearts.
And to be fair, it was never the strongest weapon in other games too. The Giant's Knife, or
right,
the Great Fairy Sword, probably, or even the Megaton Hammer. They're technically stronger weapons.
Yeah, but
in
they're
other
probably like
aspects.
secret, like you have to do some shit to get there, and not just slap a sword on a sword.
Right. I mean, like Master Sword was just meant to mostly just seal Ganon, and then like so story wise, it's cool that it got like disintegrated basically and had to like whatever at the beginning
go
of the
through
game.
time to be reborn through Zelda. And I liked that,
But
the
it's still
carrying
like
of the
a
Master Sword in this.
right. But like once it becomes a numbers game of like stats and like what's stronger, it's like I don't even want to look at you now, bro. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here?
But it's a very difficult thing to. I find myself often reflecting on this quote from Grant Morrison when someone was asking them about Batman stuff, and like essentially it was like someone said, well, who changes the tires on the Batmobile? And Grant Morrison just pointed out that why are you asking? Stop asking that. It's a comic book.
Right.
Like you need to, like, yes, we can walk through that logic and we can figure these things out, but at the same time, it's a comic book. And that the problem with people and their enjoyment of things is them and what they're willing to enjoy. So I don't know. I'm reminded of that quote all the time, just mentally. And I try to take that approach with media that I consume. Like I try to separate myself from it and remember, like, but at the same time, there's like elements that you can't ignore. There's certain things you should look past, that you should whatever, but there's others that are like kind of hard not to think about.
Like, Nintendo never cares about story. That's not their main focus. Like lore or anything like that, it's not a focal point. And I'm fully aware of that. Like gameplay always comes first, everything else is second. But they did write how important that sword should be, and it just never lives up to what it should be.
No.
So
I
it's
guess
like,
Skyward Sword tried to, but
yeah, true.
I would
but
argue it might be the best because it doesn't break.
true, but it does lose charge.
Doesn't break. Keep using it.
Yeah, I guess so. The one thing that here's the one. You're again like, this is my problem with Tears of the Kingdom. You are rewarded for it, or I'm sorry, you're not. You're punished for exploring. I think that's been my like through line with this whole game. In this game, if you don't do the Master Sword quest before the final encounter, and you just let Zelda swoop in as a dragon, you then get the Master Sword, and then you can defeat Ganon. And canonically, that makes way more sense than the version that I did, where I went through and sought out the Master Sword and did everything to go get it. Because then I had that Master Sword running around for right. Like it should be the Sword of Evil's Bane, the thing that is meant to stop Ganon and Ganon alone. But the fact that I had it while I'm knocking down lakes in a forest, like it reduced its power and it reduced its meaning. And I think like, again, I felt like I lost something by me exploring.
And I think there's sorry, like things are just now clicking in my head about it, where it's like, maybe the Master Sword shouldn't really be that significant, but it's only significant with Ganon. Any Zelda games that don't have Ganon as the main villain, those games are usually fond of, and you're not even worried about the Master Sword anymore. Like, Majora's Mask, nobody thinks about it. The Oracle games, you don't think about it. Like, the Rod of Seasons is so cool. That's like my favorite thing. It's changing the season when you go on a tree stump, or like, you have a harp that can go through time. Like, it's cool that other weapons can be just as important. But yeah, whenever Ganon's involved and the Master Sword sucks, it's just weird.
Yeah.
It never broke.
It broke my heart.
Thank you, Mark. So, assuming you are following a general route of completion laid out in the game, you will split up your time following the main story quests. You'll gather memories at the glyphs scattered across the map, and you complete the game's main temples. All of that leads you to the final fight with Ganon. And along the way, as you're collecting each of the dragon tears from the glyphs across the map, you are kind of unlocking the story, what happens after the opening where Zelda falls back in time. But let's look at temples specifically, because they were a big thing that I felt like we talked about it. There was something I wanted out of a sequel to Breath of the Wild. It was like, hey, Breath of the Wild did a lot of things I liked, and it needed to do in the wake of Skyward Sword and, just diminishing returns. But it lost a lot of what I like of Zelda games. So they return in Tears of the Kingdom temples. There's 4 temples. One thing that's neat here is that each temple, it not only grants Link a unique power, but also it brings that respective hero of Hyrule into the final battle against Ganon. So kind of similar to the Breath of the Wild fight where they made it harder because you had to kind of like speed run the bosses or do a boss rush before you fought Ganon. In this, it's kind of the opposite where you just get extra help to go in against Ganon.
No, I thought no. You said the boss rush them in this game. I looked into
you do? Okay.
Yeah, that big battle sequence before kind of going into the final like battle when they all come swooping in and those heroes like come and save the day or whatever. Like you would have to face, I think, the respective mini boss that you had not taken out yet before.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
They swoop in, so you just can't run to the middle again. Sorry, the run to the middle is not any easier in this game.
Okay, fair enough. We got 4 temples in Tears of the Kingdom. I want to talk a bit about temples here. Wind. Yeah. Matt's holding up the old 5 there. Do they name 5. The 5th?
I think technically, according to fandom.com, the Spirit Temple.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, the 4 I was thinking of, we can include the Spirit Temple. I'm fine with that. But wind, fire, water, and lightning. I guess Spirit Temple does make sense.
This existed before.
Well, let's start with this. Matt, what was your favorite temple and why?
Probably I like the run up to the water temple a lot, but I didn't. Sorry, which one was? Wasn't a water temple in the sky as well? Or am I misremembering something here?
No, yeah, you had to kind of like jump between. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I like the run up to the water temple, but not the actual temple. I like the. I think temple wise, fire was probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you?
No, fire. The boss was welcoming.
Yeah. I feel like fire had the most intriguing puzzles to solve, right? With the mine carts and...
Sure, yeah.
Crafting.
Especially coming off of wind, which I had a similar experience with how Matt did with water, where like the scaling to get to it was interesting, and gave you like a sinking gut feeling the higher you got, and then once you get there, it's like, all right, wind temples is not really. I don't know. It might as well have been a divine beast, but then the boss fight was I liked the boss fight a lot.
The boss fight was good.
Did you have a least favorite boss fight?
Ironically enough, probably the Fire Temple one.
Oh, really? I liked that one.
The final part of it, and it's like cave.
When you had to like roll, what was his name? Bonobo?
Yeah. Well, now
yeah.
The wind tunnel I liked. But I think. Oh no! Fuck that water temple. Sorry, that water temple asshole sucked.
Okay, thank you. I thought.
Sorry,
that's my least favorite. I just didn't. I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, he was not. The mud drops, like walking that whole thing. That was not a good mechanic.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Fuck that. That's probably why I said the lead up to the water temple, not the water temple itself. Yeah, no, there was another puzzle in the water temple that I struggled with, and I paper machéed my way to a victory on that one.
Yeah. Unobo, not Bonobo. My bad. But yeah, rolling. I like that Goma fight. I think my favorite was.
I like the first form a lot when you're at the volcano to go in.
Yeah,
you're flying. Yeah. I like that a lot.
I think my favorite might be Queen Gibdo out in the old desert temple or lightning temple rather.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I just liked I liked the design, but I also liked the fight of having to like run around and strike with lightning and then attack. It was a fun fight. Mark, did you say your favorite boss?
Oh, I do like Goma just for nostalgic reasons. It was just nice to see Goma again, but just in a fire setting, which was interesting. But I still like I think I still like the wind boss.
I liked the wind boss.
It felt so therapeutic when it would shatter.
Yes,
it felt
through those ice. Yes.
But if you did miss, you still could like fly through the boss or something like it. I like that.
Yeah, that I really liked that one. The Seized Contract was the contract. Sears. Oh my goodness. Seized Construct was the Spirit Temples boss, and that one I didn't love. That was the you're in the boxing ring.
It was weird, especially because at that point I had already did the what's this what's the gang's name? The Yiga clan, Master Koga.
Yeah.
I already did all of Master Koga's side stuff at that point, so it kind of felt like a watered down version of one of those fights. That most of them are pretty cool.
I agree. And the boxing ring thing, it felt like something that would have happened in like a Game Boy Advance Zelda game, but it just felt silly. Like, and I'm fine with things being weird. It was just, I don't know. For it to be like a main, I guess, yeah, it is a fifth temple. I should correct myself from earlier. Like, this is a fifth temple, but
started to remind me of like one of those enemies in Sonic Forces.
It's very Sonic Forces.
Perfect compliment. What a compliment to give.
I feel bad because we're all smiling and having a good time right now, and I'm gonna pull back a little bit. But Mark, you mentioned Colgera.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the punishment for exploration, and looking back at my notes here, I'm reminded of what I'd written somewhere. This is June 8th. I'm going to write exactly, I'll read exactly what I've written. While attempting to find more light routes underground and see what new legacy costume pieces I could uncover. Because that was kind of cool. I don't know if you guys did much of that, but as you uncover things underground, you get like Majora's Mask to wear, or the Twilight Princess suit, all that stuff that used to
Dark
be locked
suit
behind DLC, or amiibo stuff last time around was all underground. So while wandering to do that stuff, I saw the flickers of a terrifying looking new enemy flying around. I was genuinely worried about what lie ahead in the darkness. And I couldn't tell what it was in the darkness. I saw that it had spikes. It looked massive. I was actually terrified to move forward. Not like, frozen in fear, but I was like, oh my gosh, like what could this be? And I got closer. I got to the fight. I'm readying myself, making sure I've got enough health items. Like whatever this is going to be, I'm going to do it, right? And I quickly uncovered that it's Colgera underground. And I already knew how to defeat it. It took me 30 seconds. And then after I did, I grabbed his pincers and slapped him on a boomerang and moved on with my day. But then as you go through underground, you just keep finding these spots and it's just the boss fights again. Mm-hmm. It's nothing new. And it was such a wasted opportunity. I felt like could have done something. So I was legit worried, like, oh my gosh, what am I up against? What am I about to find? This is terrifying. And it was the same thing. And it deflated.
Yeah. What's the three-headed dragon? Gleeok?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where
yeah.
like it was cool to see Gleeok return, but then like once you start exploring more, it's like, oh, you just find different elemental Gleeoks. And it's like, okay, well, it's kind of lost the impact of the one Gleeok. But I guess they're just up there now with like Hinoxes or Lionels or.
They are, but did you guys do the Gleeok fight? Did you finish one?
I never got close.
I found an ice one, but I was like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah,
I found that same ice one.
I found the ice one. I think the one I defeated was the fire one. He's like over by Lake Hylia. I got like, I don't even remember what it was. I might have written it down because I was disappointed, but it was nothing. Like it was maybe a fire themed weapon or something like that. I granted, there's a side quest, right? I should say that there is a side quest that like if you attack them and whatever, someone thanks you and gives you rewards. But like the actual act of doing it, like all you get is the satisfaction of having done it, which, I mean, it's not nothing, right? Like it does feel good to overcome that because it feels, I'm not gonna say it's quite as rewarding as like a Dark Souls or Sekiro boss or something like that, but it is that level of like, it's this game's version of that, right? You're just like, what is this? What could this be? How am I going to overcome this thing? Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. While we're celebrating the temple bosses, I thought it important to point out that as cool as they are, that really, in one hand, it's like nice to, be able to fight those bosses again because the fights themselves are fun, but it's not. It just took away for the importance or this what made them feel special in the first place.
Yeah, Elden Ring had some reskins of bosses. That was like a big complaint that people had. Was like, oh, I can't believe they couldn't come up with 120 some whatever the final count is boss count. I was like, all right, relax, it's not that bad. And then I played this. I was like, that's what it could have been like.
Yeah, there's 4 bosses, and they use them over and over again underground.
And like they don't even look different, right? Like it's just they're not like skeletal forms or something. You know what I mean? Like that would have been at least a little more made a little more sense.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, the only thing that makes them look a little bit different is the lighting underground. Like the lighting did, because that was the thing too. When I first started seeing it move, and I was like, "Oh, it's like bluish," but no, it's just because it's dark underground. But you get up close and it's the same old thing. Yeah. Is there anything specific about the temples that you want to dive into? Talk about exploration, discovery, anything that stood out from the temples?
I don't know. I maybe it's because of like this game's equivalent to shrines, which are I guess shrines, right? They're still called shrines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're just not Sheikah tech. Just for some reason that just magically disappeared. No real explanation. I guess because a lot of that still existed, I'm not as like whoa by any of the temples.
Yeah, like I'm with you. They don't.
It's kind of similar to finding this bosses you fight. They're underground. It's like I've done so many little dungeons that like when I do get to a dungeon, it's like I don't know. But I also feel like I'm sounding like nothing's good enough to impress me.
Nah, I mean, there were temples. They were definitely, I think, better than Divine Beast, but like the Wind Temple, like didn't do much for me. The Water Temple was like even before the boss fight. If it was reminding me of the Wind Temple again, it was like the Fire Temple was like really the only one I was kind of taking advantage of. Like there being multiple levels, having you solve some puzzles within the levels to get to other levels and stuff like that. Like I just felt like the wind and the water, and even lightning was a little bit better. But when in the water, I felt like I was kind of going to a location and just kind of figuring out what to do in that location, for what I remember.
I liked the wind tunnel. That was the. I don't know. I liked the jumping around. I liked getting there. That whole like journey to like fly up.
I'm talking about the actual temple. The lead up is great. Yeah.
No, the lead up was great, but I think the temple itself, like even like jumping around from room to room, I remember feeling a bit like thrown off and confused on how specifically to solve a couple of those locks. But I had a fun time wandering around that big airship and trying to.
I got so lost for some reason on such a simple place where it was just like, why can't I make any progress forward? I've been everywhere. I've been to parts of it that I thought I shouldn't even be in yet or something. And then it was like all because like one little room I forgot to look at one spot. And I was like, are you...
I did the same thing. Yeah. that was a weird, yeah.
But yeah,
but no, the lightning temple I felt was great I liked the up and down of that. I liked moving around there. Like I liked the weird like staircase, the right word, I don't know, but you had to like kind of do things and move different pillars and things.
Yeah.
Now I'm struggling to remember, what was that area with the big lightning cloud all over it that ended up being story purpose after you cleared it away? Was that a temple? Or was that another story beat?
I think that was the wind temple, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't the wind temple. I did
on the way to the lightning temple.
No, it wasn't even on that side of the map. I think it was on the side of the water temple map.
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. It was... Oh, gosh. I can, like, picture it on the map.
Yeah, I tried to fly into it and immediately got...
Yeah.
Before I had the necessary materials.
Yeah, I forget what that was or why it was there, but you're right.
Was that the lead up to the water temple? Now that I'm thinking about it.
No, I don't think it was. I don't remember.
I don't remember then.
But Matt, you pointed out before that these do feel different from the Divine Beast. What do you think about these felt different? I know that we've all kind of pointed out how they're still lacking, but yeah, what made them feel different?
It's the, like, again, my one Zelda game, well, I guess I've played a couple now, but, like, when I think Zelda, like, you're going from, like, the central area, and you're going to, like, these legs of a temple, you're getting an item to then backtrack or get a shortcut that goes to another leg, and then it all kind of culminates to, like, this third leg, where you have all the materials, and that's where the boss fight is. It's just, like, the Divine Beast never really felt like that. These temples are starting to get there. Again, the fire one's like the best example, I think, of that. These other ones, they have you go into locations, but you're not necessarily getting like an item to kind of, even if it's just for that temple, like to carry you through that you need to kind of do whatever. It's just, you're just kind of playing as Link the entire time throughout these temples without like a specific tool or whatever.
Yeah, I think an improvement for sure is that not all of it just has the Sheikah texture slapped on everything. Because that was, all the Divine Beasts had that, obviously, all the shrines have it, you just see, like, brown and glowy blue everywhere. And it was like, you get sick of looking at that. Like, if I see another eyeball, I'm gonna scream. Thankfully, they moved on from that.
All of that, what do you call it? Like, just, I don't even know what that design is even, but that, like,
it's like deep fried noodles. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very, good point. Like, yeah, it,
in concrete.
Not my jam.
So that's definitely an improvement. But yeah, like, I like that they branched away from like, oh, here's a specific item in temple, and then that's what you need to beat the boss with, hit the glowy spots, move on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to understand the full use of the item you just got, that whole temple is designed around that item. So it kind of helped theme out the puzzles and everything in it, and like really got you to understand how to really use it. And then it would have been cool once you get that. Then outside of it, in the world that you're traversing, you start to get more creative with it as you go along, rather than just dumping all this arm stuff on you like right from the start and figure it out as you go. I don't know. So it's like there doesn't really feel like a sense of progression in that sense of like finding more things and then reapproaching the world with that new thing now versus you just have it all from the start. You can just keep rinse, lather, repeat throughout the whole thing until it doesn't work anymore. So I guess it's all preference, but
The Thunderhead Isles, and it was just a big lead up to a shrine. It was a whole side quest.
That's it?
I believe so. I think that's all I'm seeing.
Okay.
The Secret of the Ring Ruins quest will be complete. Because you have to, that's the one spot where you have to do the heart test.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the temples in the game are elements of completing the main story quests. I think that it would be a disservice to just kind of recap the entirety of the story, the main beats and things like that. I think we've played it. I think the listeners who are interested in that conversation have played through it. So, you know, we don't need to recap beat for beat everything that happened. And I also think we should save our story conversation for part 3 next week. But, yeah, I think we can look through the major plot of the story, talk about the ending of the game, talk about what it means for future Zelda titles. I think we talk about Link's journey, where we are emotionally today, you know, removed from the game a bit. Finally, next week, we'll also rank it on the list alongside every video game from Season 10 and Season 11. Before we do that and we, you know, cut for next week to jump into story stuff, is there anything combat, temples, crafting, just general Tears of the Kingdom, you know, where we're at that you want to talk about? Close out on.
I guess I want to shout out to, and if I said this before, my apologies, but I like how much easier it is to complete the map.
Yeah, that's good point.
Definitely not as many towers to climb and wait for the little drop to come into the Sheik attack or whatever. Like, it's nice to just go skydiving, kind of get a scan, and then
you're
from
done.
there you're just like, all right, yeah, see ya, and just try to glide to the next spot or something. So I like that some things were definitely more streamlined in that sense.
I know, well, I didn't shit on it. You all shit on it. I know you all shit on the Master Sword, but the journey to get it is actually kind of really fucking cool.
No, it's super cool. It's very cool. Yeah, I don't want to discount
like
that
from
at all. You're right.
From the beginning, like figuring out what to do. There's a whole in our text thread somewhere. Me and Joe are going back and forth on how to get through the Lost Woods to get to the middle. And kind of like once you figure it out, you're like, oh, duh. Like, there's like a whole good thing there. The boss fight in the middle, and then the whole epic thing to get into the sky. All super good. And it was a cool. It is a cool moment to get the sword. I will. Yeah, So, you all might think the sword might suck, but getting it was awesome.
I think it was just like, I'm so used to a sword keeping a charge until you get hit.
It doesn't break.
But it might as well, because it loses its strength a little bit.
Hey,
so
look, just because it did everything doesn't mean I upgraded from the sticks and bats I had for Breath of the Wild. Gotta keep some traditions around here.
True.
I mean, I'm glad it doesn't break, but I don't think it should lose a charge either.
There were a couple of things I had jotted down. We can close out on from my notes from last time that I did not mention. Just we tried to keep things light, spoilers last time around, so I didn't dive into these things. But a few that I think make sense to talk about here. Some of these we can even save for next week. But I did genuinely, the first time I encountered the temple and I saw the words Fire Temple in all caps, I was so happy to see they brought temples back. Like that genuinely lit me up, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they did it! They did it! They did it!" I remember like that feeling. It was so exciting. I just have a note here that says "LOL Hearth."
Hearth.
Character you meet named Hearth, and I thought his name was stupid, so made sure to point that out. And I guess I'll close that on this one here, and we can wrap the episode. But my one little note that I left unsaid last time was we knew somebody was gonna eat a tear, right? It wasn't a surprise to anyone.
Oh, sure. Yes. I mean, like there was like what 3 different cutscenes talking about it, and it's like, gee, I wonder what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Okay, now right.
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Somebody's gonna do it. So we will talk more about who did it next week when we return for part 3 and we rank Tears of the Kingdom. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week.